Hello and welcome to another edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. Right off the bat on the old show today, we're going to start off with some pretty awful news. The folks over at Mazda, although the actual CEO of the organization in a interview with a local publication came out and said that remember that RX-9 that they've been rumored for goodness gracious probably 2 years now. The lineage of rotary powered sports cars that started with the RX-7 and the RX-8. And the new one was going to be the RX-9. Apparently that is gone. They will not actually produce that particular machine, or at least for the time being, which was some terrible news in itself. But then, and later on in the interview, he said something that I thought was even worse as far as I was concerned. He said, you know, here at Mazda, we're in a situation where financially we can't build this particular sports car. And you know what? We're here not to hit home runs. But if every vehicle in our lineup hits singles, we'll still win the game, which just sounded incredibly depressing to me. That a big CEO of a company would talk that downtrodden about their particular brand was just awful for me to hear. I mean, this is the Zoom Zoom group. This is probably one of the most entertaining Japanese auto manufacturers out there. You know, some of those, well, looking at Honda and Toyota, they built some pretty bland stuff, but Mazda really built that brand new Mazda Miata. It's fantastic to look at, and supposedly quite the machine as well. It's just kind of a shame that they're not going to build this car and then talk that terribly about the company. And further terrible news comes from the folks over at Lotus. Apparently they're going to have to really tighten up their belts. Remember that whole lineup of really cool brand new automobiles? Yeah, none of those are being built. And there were still rumors that one of them was going to. Well, apparently that's not going to happen now. And then they've now let go of almost 200 folks from the factories. Apparently they're really having to tighten up their belts, and the times are tough for the folks over at Lotus. But honestly, I really feel really terrible about those folks who have lost their jobs. So, beginning part of the week, just some terrible, awful news. And then a day or so later, something that perked me up a tad bit better. Just as I was going to put a brand new teaser photo up from the folks over at Cadillac about the V-Series version of the ATS, Road and Track got some high-res photos and slapped them on the old internets for all of us to Google at. This is the brand new ATS-V, the vehicle that Cadillac, swinging well above the fences, trying to go after BMW with the M3 and the C-Class AMG version of the Mercedes-Benz. Now, honestly, when you really look at it, people who are in the market for an M3 or an AMG C-Class are never going to say, well, why don't we just get this Cadillac instead? That's never going to happen. But that being said, I love it when companies go after the big guns. That means they're really, really trying. Now, we don't know nothing official about this deal. Just some stuff that Road and Track said about it. This vehicle is going to get a brand new suspension setup in this particular machine to give it a lot more performance. Not to mention a big brake kit all the way around to really haul this machine down. Lightweight wheels and super sticky rubber to handle the beast that lives within. This vehicle is going to get a 3.6 liter, a twin turbocharged V6, making 450 brake horsepower and 445 pounds-feet of torque. And if you're thinking about the M3, yeah, that makes a pretty good chunk more than the old M3 does. So this thing is fantastic to look at, especially in the front of the machine. I think it looks very aggressive. Very good looking automobile. Cannot wait to hear more stuff about this when this vehicle debuts at the November 18th and 19th at the LA Motor Show out in Los Angeles, California. Last up on the list, some interesting situation when it comes to the folks over at GMC. Now, the GMC group is kind of interesting to me. They kind of mirror the Chevrolet group when it comes to the truck and SUV side. Pretty much everything that Chevrolet builds, GMC builds another version of it. And they're basically the same vehicles other than a little bit of sheet metals. Now, there is a little bit of difference, especially when it comes to the SUV. This SUV versus Chevrolet's SUV. Chevrolet's SUV being the Tahoe, this one being the Yukon. The Yukon can come in Denali trim, which comes with a lot higher grade stuff, which puts it a little bit up market. In fact, instead of taking on that whole professional grade thing that they actually put together in their ads, there's a lot of talk, and the big heads at GMC actually said in an interview that they're looking to take the brand up market. Now, being as they kind of cannibalized the actual sales between Chevrolet and GMC between the pickup truck side, if you move them all up market, wouldn't this particular vehicle, being the Denali, wouldn't it just cannibalize sales for the Cadillac Escalade? Or it would remain to be seen how well this actually worked. But taking it away from going head-to-head with Chevrolet, I don't think it's a bad deal at all. But then the hammer got laid down in this interview, and he said something even more interesting, that they're in talks, and this is just talks, they haven't made anything official yet, of building a competitor to the Jeep Wrangler. That is way out in left field. Couldn't believe when I first heard that. Like, you've got to be kidding me. In fact, I cannot remember for the life of me if there's ever been a direct competitor to the Jeep Wrangler. So, very interesting times for the folks over at GMC. See just what exactly their future plans may be. This is very interesting indeed. And that's all there was that I thought was worth talking about for this edition of Motor Cars Enthusiasts. If you want to jump on over to the Facebook page, I've got 2 brand new videos that are teasing supposedly what could be the GT350 Mustang that's going to make its debut at the LA Motor Show, or at least supposedly is going to make its debut. This is the 3rd of 5 videos, so there'll be 2 more left to come before that November 18th, 19th debut at the LA Motor Show. Also, if you want to subscribe to the channel, you can do so at any time and get the first dibs on the brand new shows as soon as they come out. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again real soon.